Good morning, welcome to Furry and Spoilt. Today I'm going to be talking to you about preparing for when your dog dies. This is a really horrible subject and I really don't want to record this video. I've been putting it off for months, but it's something that we're all going to face and therefore it's something that we need to be prepared for. I know a lot of people in person and through my channel who weren't prepared for their dog to be put to sleep, and so when their dog really did need to be put to sleep, they weren't prepared, and so they dragged it out and then spent months, and if not longer, feeling really terrible about it. And so I think if you can be prepared for it, then that won't happen to you, because that would be such an awful thing to happen. So I've got 3 dogs, and if you know my channel then you'll know my dogs because they're always on it. And normally when I'm filming, I am filming my dogs while I'm talking, but nothing could make me put the camera at them when I'm recording this video. So instead I'm going to take you into my garden and we're just going to have a wander around, look at the nice flowers. So I've got 3 dogs and 2 of them are getting on a bit now. So one of them is almost 10 and the other one is somewhere between 10 and 12. We don't exactly know. So it is something that, I mean, obviously dogs can go on to 19 or 20, you know, and as far as I'm concerned, that is what I'm aiming for my dogs, and they will go on and on and on. But I do have to be aware that they're getting older now and make sure that I'm prepared if their time comes. However, it can happen to much younger dogs, and so I think it's just something to always be prepared for. And it isn't something I linger on. There are just stuff that I do, things that I put in place, and then just get on with my life and enjoy them. So let me just get on with this. I really don't want to do this. Let me just get on with it. Right, so ideally your dog will just drift off in his sleep. That's the ideal scenario. But I've had dogs for a very long time, like over 20 years. I rescue older dogs, and so I've said goodbye to a lot of dogs, and I've never had a single dog just pass away in his sleep. They've all had to be put to sleep. So it's not an ideal situation, and so it's something that I've had to be prepared for. The situations you're generally going to come across is you'll either have an emergency where they are just suddenly fall really ill and you'll have to do emergency dash to the vet, and then when they get there it's clear that they have to be put to sleep. There's no other option. So there's that option, or there's the option where the dog slowly declines and you need to make the decision when it's time for them to go. And this is what I'm talking about, being prepared. You need to make sure that you're prepared so that when that time comes you make the best choice for your dog, because you don't want the horror, the awful feeling that you didn't let them go when they needed to go because you weren't ready. Something that I've put into place is because we moved a couple of years ago, so I haven't had a dog go since we lived here in these last 2 years. So I needed to check with my vets that if the time came, will they come out to the house and do it. Sometimes, like I said, you'll have an emergency, you've got to rush to the vet and it has to be done there and then, and so it's done in the vet. But if it's something where the dog was just getting old or there was an illness that was declining, then ideally it's nicer if you can have the vet come out to you and put your dog to sleep at home. It's a much nicer way, and so I have phoned my vet, just make sure that that's the service they provide. Now they don't really provide it during the day, but they do out of hours, and I'm okay with that, because I think if I have an emergency I would want them to be at the vet anyway, so I would rush them to the vet and then whatever happened had to happen. And if it was a slow decline, that would be fine to do it in the evening or the weekend or whatever. So I'm completely happy with that. So just check with your vet where you're at so that you're prepared for what's going to happen. Now when your dog is put to sleep, you have a few options. You can either take your dog home and bury them in the garden. I personally have never done that because it worries me that we would move house and then I would have the whole worry of leaving them there. I couldn't handle that, so I haven't ever done that. The other option is that the vets will cremate them. They can either cremate them individually and you will just get their ashes back, or they will cremate them but it will be with other animals and so you don't get the ashes back. The other option that you have, and this is just, I'm in the UK, so I only know about the UK here, so if you're in other countries, I'd really appreciate your help with this. Can you please let me know about your country and how this works? But in this country, we've got this thing where you can go to places and all they do, the whole business is just cremating animals. and they really make a ceremony out of it. They play nice music, and you're there, and you know it's well, it's not pleasant, is it? There's nothing pleasant about it, but you know it's like a little funeral for your dog. And then you can either leave their ashes there and have like a plaque, and you can go and visit there, or you can take the ashes back home with you. Something that I have found to be great comfort to me over the years is so I've always got my dogs cremated. That's always been my choice. And one of the things that I've always done is, so the ashes come in a little urn, and you get to choose which urn you want. But then that urn comes in a box, and I've always made sure that the box, well, not always, because I only clocked onto this like last few dogs, but if you can get the box to be like a velvet texture, which they often are, like a velvet smooth texture, because I found it incredibly comforting to, like the first few weeks when I brought them home, I found it incredibly comforting to put the box in the middle of the house, so like, you know, wherever's like sort of central to your house. And then as I walk past it, I've been able to stroke it. And that sounds a little bit weird, but because I would, you know, as I walk past, my boys often reach out and stroke them. It kind of I found great comfort in that, in being able to reach out and just stroke the box. All the dogs that I've owned that have gone, I've never once been able to open that box and look at the urn. It's just something I've never been able to bring myself to do. It messes with my head so much that they go from being such a living being, and then they're just in the box dust. I can't handle that at all. So I've never been able to open the box, but the box being a velvety texture, it sounds silly, I know, but it's really helped me over the years. When you get your ashes home, you've got to think about what you're going to do with them. And so I have scattered some of my dogs. It just felt like the right thing to do for that dog. And then other dogs, I haven't, and I have their ashes in the house. It really just depends on their character, what they liked. It's a very personal decision, but I personally like to make the decision before, so that when it happens, it's not something that I have to think about. So for example, I've got 3 dogs. I've got Harry, Albert and Humps. Now Harry and Albert, I'm going to keep in the house. Albert, we used to have a cat and he absolutely loved her, and they were good friends, and so she is in the cupboard. And the reason that she's in the cupboard is because she didn't like going outside, so she wouldn't have liked to be scattered, so she's in the cupboard nice and cozy. And when Albert dies, I'm going to put him in the cupboard with her. And also, you know, he is a right mummy's boy, and he would like to be near me all the time. And then Harry, the same thing. If Albert goes first, because he's quite a bit older, I'm going to put Harry with Albert because they were good friends. And Harry, again, you know, like he's a mummy's boy, so he liked to be near me. Now Humps, he, if you watch all my videos, you know, you'll be very familiar with my dogs. He's a rescue from Korea, and he spent his whole life in a tiny cage in the pitch black in a warehouse. So to put him into a cupboard doesn't feel right. Now we've only had him for 8 months, so I know him very well. But as time develops, his personality will develop more. At the moment, my thought is that he would want to be scattered and he would want to be free, because he spent so much of his life in the box. But then, you know, the other time, I think he's found his forever home, his love in his family. And the other 2 are going to be here, and he'll be scattered. And I feel a little bit like that. Is that sending him away after he's found us? And I know this it might all sound like I'm a bit crazy. I do know that. And it all sounds a little bit weird. But if you've had dogs and you've had to say goodbye to them, you'll understand where I'm coming from. So I've got to put a little bit of thought into Humps and what I want to do with him, with his ashes. But like I said, I'm not spending loads and loads of time dealing with this. It's just I prepare it. It's all done in my head, and then I get on and enjoy my boys. But I do just want to put a bit of thought into Humps just to prepare myself. I would hate it if he were to go and I hadn't made the decision. And I don't know that you can really make very good decisions when you're so upset about your dog going. So that's that. Now, something else you can do with the ashes is you can have them turned into diamonds, or you can have them turned into like little circle plaques that you could put on keychains, stuff like that. And then you can carry that around with you. The reason that I've never gone down that road is because I'm terrified of losing it. I just couldn't handle that at all. So that's why I've never gone down that road. But I can understand. You can get their ashes tattooed into you. And that has been a very tempting thing. But then I thought, well, what about my husband? It's not fair, is it, that I have them and he doesn't? So, and I certainly don't want to split them up. So that's another option that you've got. Another thing is that I really put a lot of thought into is my other dogs. So at the moment I've got 3 dogs. So if one of my dogs went, I have to think, well, I've really got to think about those other dogs because they're going to really, really miss them. So I have researched it and I've put thought into it, and I've decided that when any of my dogs go now, I'm going to let my other dogs see them when they've passed away. So in the past when I've had dogs, I've only ever had one dog at the time. So I haven't had to deal with the other dogs. But now I've got 2 other dogs. So when the dog has passed away, I'm going to let them see them, because otherwise they're just going to wonder where they've gone. If they just disappear, you know, they live together like 10 years or whatever, and if they just disappear, they're going to wonder where they've gone, and I don't want that. So I've decided that I'm going to let them see them when they've passed away. The other thing that I put a lot of thought into is concerning my other dogs is the time after. And so obviously you've got to think about your other dogs. You can't just be a mess because they're looking to you for leadership. So you can't just be a mess. However, I think that they do need to see you grieving a bit to understand. I think because they are going to feel sad. Dogs, it's proven, they really feel it when their friend dies. And I think if you just expect everyone, you know, you just get on with normal life, that's going to be very confusing for them. So I kind of decided that I will almost have a few days of mourning, where they will see me sad, not terribly sad, but they will see me, they'll feel my sadness. So that I think that it makes more sense to them then, that you've acknowledged that the other dog has gone, and that you've acknowledged their pain. You're acknowledging their pain and you're feeling the pain as well. I think that's really important. I want to make sure that I never have any regrets with anything to do with my dogs. So something that sort of springs to mind is sometimes I'll be working and one of my dogs will come up and they'll want to cuddle. And I'll be like, oh, you know, I'm busy, I'm working. And I don't ever do that anymore, because I think, imagine if that was the day they passed away, and then I'd have that thought that they came up for a cuddle and I didn't do it. And I know you can't always cuddle your dogs when they want to, but I'm just more aware that just in case that's the day, you know, I just if they want to cuddle, I stop, quick cuddle. Because I just know that personally I would have a hard time with that if that was the day and they'd come up and ask for a cuddle and then I didn't do it. I know I'd really give myself a hard time about that. So I just make sure that I don't have any regrets, stuff like that. It isn't something that I dwell on. I know it sounds a little bit like I dwell on it, but I actually don't. I've prepared, I've put things into place, I've discussed things with my husband. We know what we're doing, and I just get on and really enjoy my dogs. But it's just there, it's all in place, it's all prepared. If you do choose to go with the option of going to one of these places where they're cremated, then, you know, like at a special place, then you can book them in before. Book them in, give them all the details. And then when it comes to the day, you know, you haven't actually got to deal with that. They're booked in, and then all the details are done. So that's it. It's a horrible subject. Unfortunately, it is a situation that you will find yourself in at some point. And I hope that you deal with it well. And I hope that it's okay for you. If you've owned dogs, you will have been through it. If there's any way of preparing for it that I haven't said and you think it helped you, can you please leave it in comments, because you'll really help people. And if you're in a different country to the UK, then please can you help me out and just tell people how it works, like the cremation and stuff like that. What's the protocol? How does that work in your country? Because you'll help other people out if they're new to dog ownership, stuff like that. So I'm really glad that video's recorded. I've been dreading doing this. So that's that done now. just get yourself prepared and then get on and enjoy your dogs, and really enjoy every moment that you have with them. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.